Hey everyone, Kelsey Graven here, and I just want to dive into a couple of questions that you guys asked me on my Instagram story poll the other day about real estate. So the first one is, how does a 1031 exchange work? So an example of a 1031 exchange is when a seller owns an investment property and they're going to sell that investment property, and in order to avoid paying capital gains, which is the taxes that you would have to pay on your profits or your earnings, they're going to take those proceeds from that sale and put it into their next purchase of a similar investment property, so then they can avoid paying the taxes on the profit. The next question is, and that does not affect the buyer of that property that's doing the 1031 exchange. It does not have any effect on the buyer. Number two is 2 years. Basically, what's with the 2-year requirement of employment for a conventional loan? So there is a requirement, and for a 2-year, you have to be working the same line of work for 2 years, basically, for a conventional loan. But there are different ways around this. For instance, as an example, if you graduate from nursing school and then you solidify a job as a nurse, you can provide the lender with verification of employment and your transcripts, and you'll be exempt from that rule or that requirement. Another question is, buying out of state, the same process as buying in state. And I believe what they're trying to ask is the bigger picture process, and the answer to that would be yes. So you look at homes, you make your offer, you go through the escrow process of inspections and repairs, and then you close your escrow. The documentations and maybe some of the requirements look different, but the overall escrow process is relatively similar. You want to make sure you have an agent that's in that exact location of where you're buying, so they can guide you through the processes of that location. Another question is, how can I put my home in a living trust? And there's lots of different things we could go into about a living trust. But basically, if you are going to buy a home and you want to put it in a trust, you already need to have the trust established, and you get that drawn up by an attorney, or you can do it yourself. And then you would sign all the documentation for that property with the living trust name rather than your own name. And the title and escrow company will make sure that that is in the trust. The next question is, should I make a backup offer on a house that I like, or will that hurt chances of getting it? So there are two different scenarios. If the home that you're interested in is looking, so me as your buyer's agent, I would call the listing agent and ask how the escrow is going. If it's looking rocky, or if maybe the agent is worried that the escrow is going to fall apart, we'd want to put in a written backup offer, and that means that you are next in line to have that property in escrow. In other cases, like the market that we're in, Chico, right now, it might not be a great idea to put a written backup offer, because the seller could use that as leverage for the buyer to kind of be more agreeable to their requests. You don't want the seller to be able to use you guys as leverage. You want to be able to have leverage, basically. So it just depends on the property, and your agent will call the other agent and kind of get a feel for that. So those are the answers I have for those questions. I hope everything was clear enough, and if you guys are curious, if you want more information on these questions, or just it sparked other interest and other questions, just let me know, comment, message me, and we'll always here for everyone. Thanks, bye.